This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the LA 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming JoAnn Gillerman. JoAnn is a Bay Area-based visual artist and photographer, and her and her brother James Gillerman had a film production company called Viper Optics back in the day, and they made this really interesting short film called Clone Baby, which they got to show on John Stanley's Creature Features around 1983, 1984, and we're going to talk about that today. And also, a few years later, in 1988, they did NightFeeder. NightFeeder is a video-based, low-budget horror film that James produced, and JoAnn got to, I'm trying to remember, I think she did the art direction for it, something like that, and we're going to talk about that today, because it's the 35th anniversary. If you've never seen it, check it out on YouTube. It is hilarious and interesting, and I cannot wait. It's going to be an interesting conversation. I love talking to people from the Bay Area, and it's one of my favorite things to do, especially, you know, people who come from where you come from, roots-wise and stuff. So yeah, here is my interview with JoAnn Gillerman. Hey, JoAnn, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I am just fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time today. This is a tremendous honor.
Oh, thank you. We are very pleased to do this.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's not actually we. I'm the only one here.
Yeah.
But I've already...
Yeah, believe me, I've had a couple of publicists in the room talking to people, and it could be kind of bone-chilling. You know, fortunately, I've never had them interrupt or anything, but it's just, I don't know, it's lack of propriety, I think it is. So, going back in time, you, of course, have been a professor at California College of the Arts. You've been a photographer, visual artist, etc. Did you gravitate toward photography, art, and film early on in your childhood?
No, actually, I come out of a very strong fine arts background, and I was doing a lot of painting and drawing and medical illustrating and botanical illustrating. And in college, I actually majored in that, in technical illustration, and then got into art. My mom was an artist, and so we kind of grew up with it. So I kind of knew I was going to go into arts, and I have done just about everything in art. But I got introduced it was actually in graduate school when I was getting a master's of fine arts. I got into video synthesis, very specifically video synthesis, because you could play around with I don't know if I'm getting into something I shouldn't here, but the raster, you could actually play around and manipulate the image itself of a TV screen. And I didn't grow up even watching TV much at all. So I was just fascinated with the fact that you could actually get in there and manipulate these abstract images on a video. I'm going to call it a video display. It was a monitor as opposed to a TV. So that's when, and then, so I actually started from a very abstract place where I was dealing with computer graphics and video synthesis, which I'll talk about in a moment, but rather than, say, journalistic. So the story part came after I got into the medium of video, which at that time was completely analog.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, you were playing.
Kind of like, where do we go from here?
You were playing with technology that was ahead of its time, it sounds like.
Oh yes, and I still am. I mean, what I'm doing now is all with immersive systems and virtual reality and 360 video and creatively just different displays and everything. So I'm still very solidly into the video and the moving. Let's call it a moving image. which would be film. I actually teach in a film department, but I teach kind of out of the box digital media.
Right. Was your brother James more into film than you were?
No, he's a musician.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so...
I knew that about him, yeah.
Yeah, so here's the deal with NightFeeder. I'm going to get into NightFeeder. NightFeeder was created by I should say produced, because there were a lot of people that went into creating it and helping us. But there were 3 of us partners that had been doing music videos. Mm-hmm. And the 3 of our partners are my brother, James Gillerman, me, mm-hmm. and Jim Whitaker. And the 3 of us did a lot of music videos, and this was in the early 80s. Right. So this was pre-MTV and pre-music videos. So we were writing James was writing, my brother, was writing the music. Yeah. And because he has a music degree from the Center for Contemporary Music at Mills. And Jim and I did the visuals. Jim is like a master at lighting. And he's graphic design and painting, mm-hmm. and actually more drawing. And so the 3, and I had the video at this time, the video and the video synthesis, and we combined and computer graphics to do all these, to make these music videos. And then we decided we wanted to make something, and some of the music videos, I just think this is a kick. They were Clone Baby, Spent Fuel. So we were kind of making our own political statements, sort of social political statements in our music videos. And then we decided to take on a feature. Mm-hmm. We decided that why don't we give it a try to do a feature? And at that point, and stop me at any time if you want me to go into something else or.
It's okay. No, I love it when people talk, but I'm curious to know, were you guys born and raised in San Francisco?
No. James and I were born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And Jim was from Arkansas, but we all wound up out here for good reason. Mm-hmm. And I've been teaching, I've been out here for 50 years.
Wow.
So, and James actually my brother came out about a year before I did.
Amazing.
And,
wow.
Yeah, so, and we connected through my school is where I met Jim. Mm-hmm. And because he was taking some video. He was a graduate student there taking some video. And we decided to do this feature. And actually, I wanted to do erotic sci-fi.
Yeah.
And Jim wanted to do horror. And James and I went down to Hollywood and to find out what made sense to do. And we met with some people there, and they all said, what's erotic sci-fi? And I guess I didn't have a good enough answer because they all said, do horror. It's got a longer life. And I guess they were right. Because we did this, as you know. I mean, didn't you say it was the 30th anniversary of
35th.
it? 35th. There you go. Okay. So, yeah, because we did it in 88, 89 was when we actually copyrighted it. But, of course, we were working on it a little bit before that. Mm-hmm. And we hired writers who were mystery writers to do the script.
Right.
We worked very closely with them because we had agreed on a few things prior to getting anybody involved. And one was that we were going to have a weird reptilian, very specifically reptilian, because I and James, my brother, we're really into reptiles. I had a big, huge snake for a really, really, really long time. Mm-hmm. And so we all were kind of like really into the weird mutant baby, reptile baby.
Yeah.
and so that had to be part of the script. And all the other people, not all the other people, but a lot of the other crew that we hired were they were artists, friends that were, and some were professionals. So we didn't really come at NightFeeder with a pre-formed formula that a lot of horror movies would have. But what was important to all of us at the time was that we had a really strong female lead, and that we were dealing with a little bit of social issues of the time.
Wow, I didn't even realize the social issues of the movie. So what was it specifically that you guys were dealing with?
What we were kind of dealing with was, it was kind of the underbelly of the crime and fear in American cities. I mean, it was shot in both my studio, which I live in a warehouse. I still live in a warehouse. And Jim lived in another warehouse. And we shot everything in those warehouses and around those warehouses. And the warehouses where the artists live have traditionally, I suspect, they're rough neighborhoods. It was when I moved in here. It still is. And so you get kind of used to dealing with that. But it was something that we dealt with in the film. We certainly were, like I said, interested in having strong female characters, not as secondary but as primary. That was, and the writers were actually both lesbian, and it was important to them also to have important female lead figures. And other than that, well, I do want to talk at some point about the special effects, because that was just amazing. Special effects.
And this was right at the height of the heavy metal horror craze, but this was punk, and punk and horror had just existed in Return of the Living Dead, and not many Bay Area based horror films were out at the time, except for The Video Dead and Neon Maniacs.
Yeah.
Well, this is my way of conversating.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for maybe there would be a question.
Yeah, so, I like the way the movie looks. It looks like, it was shot on a home video camera. It looks like episodic TV at the time, like a cable access feel,
Oh, okay.
Was that by design?
Yeah, it was all shot on video. And it was shot on video. We've been asked this a lot of times. Why did you shoot it on video? Because, yes, was it 200 Motels?
Oh, yes, Frank Zappa, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the first long feature-length video, shot on video. I hadn't even thought about that for a really long time. But I do like Frank Zappa a lot.
Me too. I'm a huge fan. I've interviewed his niece. She loves him. Just a huge Zappa fan. What's your favorite Zappa song?
Oh, I don't know. I have several. I had his albums.
Mine is Bobby Brown Goes Down.
Yeah. No, I actually appreciate him as an artist, and as he was sort of always pushing boundaries.
Yeah, that's what I love about him.
I love people who push boundaries, being one who does that myself.
I'm a boundary pusher myself.
Yeah. No, I think when you push boundaries, it makes for a harder living, but an interesting one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good way to state it or not.
I totally agree with you, yeah. Was the Nuns a real band?
Oh, yes. The Nuns were a real punk new wave group.
Yeah.
And a good friend because I teach, I had a really good network. I've been teaching for a very long time at this school. And it gave me a good network of people in the through friends of friends, and a good friend who came through the school, who was involved in the production on the crew end. She's the one that put. I think she didn't even put us in touch with the Nuns. She had Jeff, who was the main person of the Nuns, come and do a cast call. He was actually he wanted the part of Brian. He was reading for the part of Brian, but we thought this is a tremendous opportunity to have him do. We had him be the band basically. And so that's how they became connected. And he was, oh my God, they were a dream to work with. They were just amazing. And I actually really love their music too. But they were just really wonderful to work with. And the special effects were created by Jonathan Horton, who was also a former student of mine a long time ago, but he went to Hollywood and he made it big. He did the suit in, I don't know, are you familiar with Enemy Mine?
I've heard the name. Oh, yeah. Oh, Louis Gossett Jr., he's the alien, right?
Yes, and he did, so Jonathan did the suit, the reptilian, that's important, the reptilian suit in Enemy Mine. He also did the final transformation in The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. And he did the whole Flipper series, and he
Inner
did a lot
Space.
of
Inner Space with Martin Short.
He what?
He did Inner Space with Martin Short and Dennis Quaid.
I don't know, but he could have.
Oh, no, I'm looking up his credits now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No, he did so many things. And he just, when we told him what we wanted to do, and we said we want a reptilian weird baby, he took it on. And that's a whole nother thing that I hope we have time to talk about, because it was really interesting.
Of course, we got plenty of time.
How we did that. Because this isn't in my usual style. This is not total linear the way I'm approaching this. I'm just kind of like,
I'm a very linear guy, but I'll let you do it since this is your first podcast.
Okay. So Jonathan, the final scene when you see the baby and you see them actually move, this is pre all the digital effects, and even if it would, or CGI, and even if it was, Jonathan was totally not into that. He was, he created these puppets, and they were maneuvered underneath the floor. And he brought two of his puppeteers that he worked with all the time to maneuver the baby under the floor. So in the final fight scene, which was done by a Shakespearean fight choreographer, specifically designed for editing, and I know a lot about the editing because that's what I was primarily doing, the art. I was doing the art direction and the editing. So it was very highly choreographed is my point, but it completely trashed the set, which you can see in the film at the end. It totally trashed the set. So overnight, the set was rebuilt, and it was raised 3 feet off the ground. And it was raised 3 feet off the ground so that the puppeteers could get underneath the ground and maneuver the baby from underneath. And they had, one of them was controlling the eyes opening up and down. The other one was controlling the proboscis-like tongue that sucks the eyes out of the eye sockets.
Yeah.
And the other one was the movement of the actual baby, of the little feet hand things. So that was really kind of interesting.
So where did you guys find Kate Alexander, and whatever happened to her? She was good in the movie.
Kate Alexander?
Yeah.
Fortunately, she passed away.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sad. Can you guess what my favorite scene in the movie is?
Do I know what?
Can you guess what my favorite scene in the movie is?
Oh, no, but I can tell you what some of mine are. Is it the autopsy?
No, not even close.
Oh, not even close. Okay, because the other one that I love, I love The Nightmare, and I like for the editing, I like the community meeting band rehearsal, but that's probably not. And the party scene.
Yeah, mine is the sex scene.
Oh, you know what?
Uh-huh.
That's the scene that I directed.
Really? Oh, I can tell why, because you're a woman and she wanted to be comfortable, right?
Yeah, no, well, and the two leads, the inspector and Catherine,
Yeah.
Jean, the journalist,
Mm.
they knew each other. They had worked together before. I think they were both did Shakespeare. They
Yeah.
both were Shakespearean actors. And Jonathan, I have been in touch with. He's still around. And that's interesting. The reason why I directed that scene is I had a real specific idea of what it should look like. I wanted it to be sensual more than specifically sexual.
Yeah. I mean, there's a quick moment where he grabs her breast and then there's a big old cutaway. I thought that was clever. I like that. Yeah. That's a great little moment there. I remember you mentioned to me in email you had a story about the video image processor.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So in the party scene, which, by the way, the party scene was the other scene that I directed because that happened in my studio. And we threw a party for that. We invited our artist friends. We said, dress however you want, bring interesting people, and we're just going to go with the flow. The person that brought the big snake, that was intentional. I asked him to come with his big snake. So we had a few plants of people, and the sound guy, Zach, in the film, Zach is in front of the Sandine video image processor, which is a video synthesizer that I built from scratch in the mid-'70s. And I used it for live performance, and a lot of production and post of video. And it looks like this crazy weird, it could be a sound synthesizer. It's kind of patterned after the Moog, but it's really a video synthesizer. So what that means is it takes video image in and manipulates it, and then spits it back out in a manipulated, colorized form. It takes cameras, and it also does synthesis with oscillators. And if you're familiar with the Moog sound synthesizer, many of the modules are designed after that, and it's patch programmable, so it's completely, it can do a lot of amazing things. It's all analog.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the opening of the brain skull. I have a high tolerance for gross. I just love that moment. Yeah. Are you still in touch with anybody from the movie?
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, I'm certainly in touch with my brother James and Jim, the director.
Of course.
Yeah, and Jonathan, and actually Jonathan, who's on the crew, and Jonathan, who's in the inspector, both of them, and the cinematographer is a good artist friend of ours. So the answer is yes. Nice.
Yeah, that ending is a total mindfuck because she's hiding out at the girl's house with that crying baby, and then suddenly that woman's the killer, and then the baby turns into a demon.
I'm just curious, did you guess the ending before you saw it?
I had no idea what was going to happen. I knew that there was probably going to be a showdown of some sort, because there always is in horror. I just didn't know what was going to happen.
So the other thing that I will mention, because I think this is important, the two films that the three of us, really liked and sort of took off from there were The Hunger.
Oh, yeah.
With David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve.
Love it.
I love that film. It's got the most beautiful opening.
I just interviewed Ann Magnuson, and she idolized David Bowie. And when she was in that scene with him, oh my God, she's like, it was like the highlight of her life, and it still is. Yeah,
that's just amazing. Amazing. And the other one that we both really liked, we all three really liked the lighting and the cinematography, and it was very beautifully filmically done, the Hunger. The other one that we all three really liked is Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that was for its kind of wackiness, cult status.
Oh yeah, of course.
Those were the two that we kind of had in mind, and I certainly was influenced by The Hunger when I did the editing for the community meeting and the band rehearsal.
I interviewed somebody from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the Transylvanian with the she's like got like big puffy blonde hair, and she wears a tuxedo and sunglasses.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she was in the stage version of it first.
That's just such a fun film.
Yeah.
I mean, I've both The Hunger and that one many times.
Yeah, great movies. So did you guys have like a wrap party at a screening?
When we completed it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, we did. We shot it all, if you can believe this. We shot it all in 10 very long days.
Yeah.
And they were very long days. But because we have night scenes and we have, it was a pretty elaborate shoots. But anyway, what did you ask me?
Oh, about having a screening and a wrap party.
Oh, a screening, yeah. So it was screened initially. It had a theatrical release at the Roxy in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then it went into, this is why my brother and I went down to L.A. when I was mentioning that before we had even decided to do horror.
Right.
But we connected at that time. We got connections to a New York distributor who put it into international distribution after the Roxy screening. But we didn't give the national rights to it. We kind of kept that until we saw how it went, because none of us knew the people we were dealing with in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go into a lot more of that, but I will say that we were disappointed, because even though it got into a lot of venues, it didn't make any money at all.
Mm-hmm.
Through that distributor. So Rob, I worked with somebody else on the that was assistant editing with me, and we made an interactive version of NightFeeder that was on CD-ROM, and we called it an interactive narrative because it was very interactively non-linear. But you did go into scenes, and you had clues you had to solve in order to get to open up, to get to the last critical scenes of the baby and stuff. And we got people interested in that one, and it almost went through. But in order to do that, we had to get the rights back. So we had to I bought back the rights from the distributor in New York. He made me pay for the rights to get it back so that we could do other things with it. And then and so that's why it's set on the shelf for a long time, which is why it's been in obscurity for some life. It sat on the shelf for a long time at my studio with all of its master tapes and everything were here. Mm. And then I got randomly an email that said they were interested in buying a copy of it. And I didn't have any copies of it, and so I wrote back and I was like, by the way, where are you? And it turns out he was in Poland, and he was looking at a bootleg copy, and he wanted to have his own copy. And I said, well, if we could get it back into distribution, then I would let him know, but it would probably be too expensive to do a one-off. And then about a year and a half later, I got another email from somebody else inquiring about it. And this was in 2015. And I was kind of flippant about it. Because at this point, I replied that it was no longer in distribution, but I was kind of curious where he heard about it and if he'd ever seen it. Mm-hmm. And he said he saw a bootlegged Polish version.
Nice.
And I said, well, if you know anybody that wants to get it back in distribution, that would be cool, because then, I have all the masters, we could do that. So it turns out he was with, and I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Bleeding Skull.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, so Bleeding Skull got it back in distribution, connected us to a publisher distributor, Mundo, where it was for a few, like 3-4 years. Mm-hmm. And then just recently, because Mundo went under, and just recently SRS picked it up. SRS out of New York. And so that's where it is now, and so it's available again now through SRS and Amazon and all that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who made local horror films back in the day, they had trouble getting it distributed worldwide. Robert Burrell did the Milpitas Monster. I talked to him a couple of years ago about it. John Stanley made a low-budget horror film, Nightmare in Blood, and he had trouble getting it widely released as well. And that's so cool. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to have, a huge Blu-ray of NightFeeder.
It is in Blu-ray now.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, no, SRS did put out one on Blu-ray. What surprised me when it first, in 2015, when it first got picked up by Bleeding Skull, he said the collectors were interested in VHS. And I was pretty blown away by this because, frankly, I hate VHS.
I love VHS. I have a huge collection.
Well, I understand now why. Well, I have a huge collection of so much defunct in my studio, defunct, not any longer supported video equipment. You have no idea.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate why, that part of VHS, I understand why. I mean, it's still being supported.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have owned...
But I also want to say that the cover art, which a lot of people have commented that they really like, I like the cover art on the VHS. You just have a bigger canvas to work with.
Yeah. So I want to ask more about Viper Optics, because you guys did that short Clone Baby, which I saw on that Creature Features video. Right. I have a long-winded compliment to give you on this. It reminded me of Devo's The Truth About De-Evolution, with a little bit of Frank Morris's Frank Film, with a little bit of Fish Heads and the Buggles video for Video Killed the Radio Star. It is just so early 80s, and it is so surreal and wonderful. So what's the genesis of it?
Okay, my brother, James Gillerman, did the sound, so that's original sound. Mm-hmm. And Jim and I did we all did the video, but Jim and I basically did the visuals. The image processor that you see in the picture that you're using and in behind the sound guy, that did, if you remember in Clone Baby, seeing the test tubes with the people in it.
Yep.
And actually one of those people is Jonathan Horton, who did the special effects for us in NightFeeder. But and the person who turned us on to the nuns. So I don't even know if I'm one of the people in I don't remember. I don't think so. But that was done using the image processor. Mm-hmm. So all the special effects were using the image processor. And then the refrain was all using computer graphics on a system I was using called the Aurora Video Graphics System. So that was all early computer graphics and video synthesis. And it was, I have to tell you, I am still totally fascinated with the idea of cloning.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done several, something that we didn't talk about, but I did a lot of interactive museum exhibits for science centers and for a cultural center and a zoo, and these interactive the why did I bring that up about the interactive that I was trying to avoid the call, but it'll stop in a moment.
I get it. Yeah.
I have asked my students, it's something I do almost every semester, if they would clone themselves. And in many years of teaching, it's really interesting. Originally, there was maybe out of a class of, let's say, 20, there might be 1 or 2 that would clone themselves. 10 years later, there was maybe a third of the class that would clone themselves. And the last time I did it, it was way more even. There were more people that would consider cloning than not. And I thought that was a really interesting. So, you know, how we have evolved in thinking about cloning. One of the interactive exhibits that I did was at the Tech Museum of Innovation, and I asked a bunch of really interesting thought leaders and scientists as part of this exhibit to talk about cloning. That's where I was going with the exhibits. And, you know, Sylvia Earle, who's a she's a oceanographer. She wasn't afraid of cloning. She thought that clones would all be different from each other, whether she was cloned or not cloned. And then Carl Anthony, who urban planner and author, really interesting person, was brought up about how cloning could be very dangerous because it got into patenting of life forms.
Right.
And
it's just like AI, pretty much.
Yeah. And so this is an area that is near and dear to me, especially the patenting of life forms, which I think is horrible. But in terms of cloning and cryonics and things like that, I find them fascinating.
Right.
So that's what the clone baby was, just bringing up all these different issues, and it was in a very tongue-in-cheek, humorous way.
Yeah.
And I love Devo. I love Devo.
Yeah. There's a guy I talked to named Britt Bacon. He owned the Skyline Recording Studio up in Laurel Canyon, and he had all these rock legends come in and record their albums there. And he had a band called the New Invaders, and they did a video very similar to The Truth about de-evolution. And yeah, I mean, Devo has left a mark on people, you know, musicians and so forth. And I really love the music in Clone Baby. It reminds me of Herb Alpert, you know, with the horns.
Yeah. Yeah, the fetal band.
Yeah, it's like a 60s cartoon theme in a way, like Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah. So that was actually, my brother plays trumpet.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's what happens when you put 3 artists doing stuff like this. You just get all these crazy kind of wacky things.
What year did you guys start Viper Optics, and what year did it disband?
Well, it's transformed. I was originally Viper Optics.
Okay.
And then I took on James and Jim, and we became Viper Optics / NightFeeder for specifically NightFeeder. And then it transformed after that, Viper Optics became Viper Vertex, which is where it is now. Mm-hmm. And that was the interactive museum exhibits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've been Viper something for a really long time.
Nice. And did these get airplay on like PBS or KQED or something?
Yeah, they did. They got even more airplay than just there. But yeah,
they look like that they would be like perfect 2 a.m. fodder, on KQED or something.
Yeah, and actually, let's see, which one is it? I think it is on the current version that's distributed of NightFeeder. I think Clone Beatty's on that. I think they did it as kind of like an extra, and then we the three of us as Viper Optics, and we did what's called Viper Video, and Viper Video is a collection of about I want to say 8 songs. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. And the last 3 is the Tech Trilogy, which we didn't do anything with, but that's kind of a fun, it's Decentralization, Tech Central, and Techtopia. Mm-hmm. And those are the last 3 on this half-an-hour video, Viper Video. So that is that's just waiting to be redistributed, picked up by somebody and published.
So how did you guys get booked for Channel 2 Creature Features?
I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Because it was part of the Star Wars and the Gang of Tomorrow segment. This was 1983 or 4 or something like that?
Yeah, it was something like that. And I'm going to guess that it was James that made that connection. I don't think it was me, and I don't think it was Jim because he wasn't on. And this was just before NightFeeder.
Yeah.
We had just completed the Viper Video.
Yeah, John Stanley, I've had him on twice. He never remembers me, but I love him. And I've met him at 2 conventions. I'll send you the pictures. He is just the greatest guy, and the fact that he's still alive, it's a gift, is what it is.
Yeah, no, it was really fun doing that.
Yeah, and at the end of the interview, your brother mentions that you guys had a project called 8 Songs Go Together. Did that ever come to pass?
That's what I was talking. That's the Tech Trilogy.
Oh, okay.
That I mentioned. So it did come to pass, but then we switched gears and went into NightFeeder, and that's what we tried to market, as opposed to the Tech Trilogy, which became part of the Viper Video. It's called Viper Video, and it's actually one of the pieces on Viper Video is Electric Dream. Mm-hmm. And Electric Dream is one of my very favorite pieces. That I love that piece. It's music by James.
Right.
And visuals are Jim and I. And it got theatrical release. It won an award in the Hollywood Erotic Film and Video Festival, and became part of the compilation that might be still from that year, which I don't know exactly what year that was, but early 80s.
Yeah.
It was put onto film, actual film. I mean, mostly when we did our stuff, it was video. Good quality video, but video as opposed to film. But that one actually had a theatrical release on film.
The Gregory Keller, his Illegal Alien short was on right after you guys. Did you guys know him?
Did we do?
Did you guys know Gregory Keller? He was also a filmmaker.
No.
Yeah, because he was on right after you guys.
Oh, on the Creature Feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I'll tell you, and to be perfectly honest, when you're sitting there in the, in the chairs being interviewed, when he did his second thing, we were kind of like out the door.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we had to sit there until we were off. But then, so no,
I totally get it. Yeah, as far as I know, that's the only full-length episode on YouTube, because there's like a ton of excerpts and clips, from like, John and Bob Wilkins era, but that's like the only full-length episode that I know of. So after the company disbanded, is that when you just focused on teaching more?
No, I was teaching when we were all doing that too.
Okay.
What's nice about teaching, because I teach college and because I've always been teaching in the area that I'm interested in doing, and because over a lot of years the school has let me, by and large, teach. I don't want to say exactly what I want because we have a curriculum that I have to follow sometimes, but it's kept me relevant and up to date with current technologies, which, as you know, when you're dealing with analog video equipment, it's come a long way. And so I like teaching. And I'm on sabbatical right now.
Nice.
I'm on a year-long sabbatical that pretty much just started, and I am just thrilled and doing a lot of new work, and I'm so pleased about it. So it's been really creative time. So the teaching has always gone on, is all I can say. I mean, and it did, when we were doing NightFeeder, it did let us have a lot of good access to, like a lot of the crew people could be. It was a great learning experience for some of my students. It was relevant. It was relevant when I stopped.
Yep. I totally get it. So currently you do illuminations?
Currently I do. Oh, illuminations? You're talking about the actual piece that's on a video? Yeah, what I'm doing now, actually I have a newer one than that called Totality.
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of aside from the horror genre, but I've been doing this for decades. I record total solar eclipses and active lava flows from volcanoes around the world. And I've been doing that for like 3 decades plus.
Wow.
And so that takes me traveling for the eclipses, certainly, to very remote places a lot of times to see a total solar eclipse. And so a lot of my work, and because it's such an immersive experience, I've always covered it in sort of a 360, but in different ways and with different equipment, including telescopes and different video and mounts. I've made some very specific mounts for cameras that can turn a 360 degree around the horizon while it's during the eclipse. And then I have another system that can close up on the sun itself. It's all the special telescope solar filters and stuff like that. So I've been doing that, maintaining that for decades as just personal interest and works, and illuminations and Totality are both playing around with that as I want to say subject matter, but it's a little bit more than that. And I have been using virtual reality and 360 cameras since 2017. And I've taken that virtual reality, that I do have pieces that are in virtual reality on my YouTube channel. And I also have some that I've taken some of the imagery from the VR and put it back into a normal format, more usual SD sort of HD format, and more standard that is easier to just look at in a lot of the more easily with equipment that everybody has. Mm-hmm. And what I'm working on right now, recently, is I've been putting these images like you've seen in illumination, and and I've done NFTs, and I have these NFT images that are in virtual reality 360, and I've taken those and I've put them into. I'm doing these sculptures now that have metal tops that are cut. So you're looking through a metal piece, kind of like a skylight of a volcano, and you can actually play around with the image with your finger so that it can be in 360. So I'm playing around with different ways of viewing 360 and virtual reality.
Nice, nice. And I saw the pics on your website. Is that a real tiger you were hugging?
It was. That was in Thailand.
Oh my God! Did he? How did you do that? He could have killed you.
I will say I love animals just in general, and that tiger didn't seem like it was going to kill me. But but there were rules. It was a place that was set up to do this. Mm-hmm. So you paid to touch the tiger. And there was a rule they had, which was you couldn't touch the head. So, with a small tiger, I kind of almost did. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, you can't do that. But, yeah, it was a real tiger.
Wow, you're more brave than I am. I'll tell you, I would have been just scared. I have a cat who acts like a tiger, but she's the most loving cat in the world.
Yeah, no, I adore cats, and I adore big cats, and I've never had a big cat, but I have touched a tiger more and a lion more than just them in different situations.
Oh, so what does your brother do these days?
He still does music.
Nice.
And he's a wine connoisseur.
Wine, huh?
Yeah. No, we still see each other. We still work together. If I need some sound, I would still go to him and say, I need some sound.
That's so cool. That's really cool.
And I do have one other thing to interject, because I think one of the best scenes in NightFeeder that I loved editing was the autopsy.
Yes, you did bring that up briefly earlier.
And besides the wonderful effects, which I think are just stunning in that, my brother's partner, Robin, is a child neurologist, mm-hmm. and she made sure that everything was anatomically correct. We consulted with her. So that is anatomically correct. And it's so realistic. And we really did have real brains in there that we got from the person who got who did the props, got that from a different doctor, got a real brain, so we really had real brains. And as a matter of fact, in Clone Baby, there is a real cow fetus. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's if you look at it again, it's real obvious when you see this jar with a cow fetus. That's real.
Mm-hmm. I'll go back and see it. Wow. That's a total mindfuck once again. So do you have anything else you'd like to mention?
I don't know. Is there anything you think I should mention that I haven't?
That you have anything coming up you'd like people to be aware of?
Well, here it's on a smaller scale, but I have. I'm in 2 shows. One's an open studio, and the other is a show that's opening on Sunday. And that's with the sculptural pieces that are VR. I will just put one shout out. If anybody's interested in seeing the Viper video, I'd be interested if anybody knows anybody that can get that one in circulation. Because it's never been, even though it's It's cool. I mean, it's dated. It's dated because the whole thing was done in the 80s before we did NightFeeder, actually.
So I'm going to push the envelope. I have a couple jokes for you.
Oh, okay.
What do you call a boy that doesn't masturbate?
I don't know.
A liar. Why is a dildo like tofu?
I don't know.
They are meat substitutes.
I'm a vegetarian.
Exactly, so you get it.
So I should have gotten that one.
JoAnn, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and or today, I should say. I forget it's not that late, and sharing all these great stories about NightFeeder and Viper Optics and all of that stuff. And I just think you're so amazing. You have yourself a great rest of your day, and be safe out there.
And you too, and thank you so much. What a treat.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have a happy holiday season and be safe.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it. JoAnn Gillerman, ain't she a sweetheart? Yeah, great lady, huh? Very passionate about what she does, and that was a great conversation. She did good for a first-timer, I have to say. Yeah, she was awesome. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past, because the present sucks. Later, dudes!